Legal but of questionable legitimacy. The verdict on the Iraq war by Britain's man at the UN. He says he was so concerned about the rush to war that he threatened to resign.
It didn't have the democratically observable backing of a great majority of member states, or even perhaps of a majority of people inside the United Kingdom.
At the end of the first week of the Iraq inquiry, we'll be looking at what's been learned so far. Also tonight, the paranoid schizophrenic who killed a vicar. A report says it might not have happened if the attacker had received proper treatment. Colleagues mourn PC Bill Barker, who died when a bridge he was standing on was swept away by the floods in Cumbria. And a special report from China on the thousands of children snatched off the streets every year and sold to parents desperate for a boy.
Later, I'll have all the sport, including more on England's defeat to South Africa in their third one-day international. They lost by 112 runs in Cape Town.
Good evening. The Iraq inquiry has been told that the war was legal but of questionable legitimacy. That was the view of Britain's former ambassador to the United Nations during the war, Sir Jeremy Greenstock. He said the invasion didn't have the backing of most of the members of the UN, nor perhaps the majority of the British public. He added that he had threatened to resign over Washington's influence on events. Nicholas Witchell reports.
He was the senior British diplomat at the United Nations, Sir Jeremy Greenstock, ambassador to the UN throughout the Iraq crisis, who today came to the Iraq inquiry to give his view on whether military action had been legitimate.
I regarded our invasion of Iraq, our participation in the military action against Iraq in March 2003, as legal but of questionable legitimacy, in that it didn't have the democratically observable backing of a great majority of member states, or even perhaps of a majority of people inside the United Kingdom.
Sir Jeremy said he warned London that he might have to resign.
I said I might not be able to continue as ambassador in New York if there was no further updated basis for regarding Iraq as being in material breach.
Sir Jeremy talked about the problems he'd faced trying to rally support at the UN. The Bush White House was barely interested, and there were times when London kept him in the dark. He recalled the private talks between Tony Blair and George Bush at the president's ranch, after which Mr. Blair suddenly started to talk about regime change.
It wasn't until the Crawford meeting in April 2002 that I realized that the United Kingdom was being drawn into quite a different sort of discussion. But that discussion was not made totally visible to me in the United Nations. I wasn't being politically naive, but I wasn't being politically informed either.
American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations.
By March 2003, Sir Jeremy said, the Americans were hell-bent on invasion. He wished they'd delayed for 6 months, but it wasn't to be.
So, after 4 days of hearings here, what have we learned? Well, we've learned that in late 2001, the Foreign Office believed that regime change had no basis in law. And yet, a few months later, after his private meetings with George Bush, Tony Blair started to talk about it. We've heard how intelligence was patchy and limited. And we've heard, time and again, how the Bush White House was determined to invade, irrespective of world opinion. Nicholas Witchell, BBC News, at the Iraq inquiry.
And you can find out more about the Iraq War inquiry on our website. That's at bbc.co.uk/news.